My name is Mark Teller. I drive a delivery route through the back roads of West Virginia. I've stayed in more roadside motels than I care to remember, but Shale Creek Motel, that one still follows me. It was early spring, rain coming down steady, the kind that turns the pavement into a black mirror. I'd been on the road since before dawn, hauling spare parts to a mining town west of here. By the time I pulled off the highway, my eyes were burning, my hands stiff on the wheel. Shale Creek Motel sat just off the exit, its flickering neon sign throwing pale red light onto the wet asphalt. 6 rooms, maybe 7, all in a single row. The office was dark, a bell on the counter. No one in sight until a man appeared from the back room. Thin gray hair, skin like parchment. "Room?" he asked. His voice was flat, but his eyes seemed to study me like I was already a problem. "Yeah," I said. "Just for the night." He slid a key across the counter. Brass tag. Number 6. Cash only. The room was at the far end, the last door before the trees started. The lock turned heavy, like it hadn't been used in years. Inside, the air smelled faintly of mildew, but it was warm. Beige carpet, faded curtains, a single bed with a quilt that looked handmade decades ago. I set my bag down and turned on the TV, static, every channel. The rain kept tapping the window in a steady rhythm. Sometime after midnight, I woke up. Not to a sound, but to the absence of one. The rain had stopped. The air felt heavier. I sat up, listening. That's when I heard it. Someone walking down the walkway outside. Slow steps. 1, 2, 3. They stopped at my door. The handle didn't turn, but I heard the faintest scrape, metal against metal. I reached for my phone, but there was no signal. Then 3 knocks. Slow, firm. I waited. Nothing. Peering through the curtain, I saw no one. The walkway was empty, the neon light from the sign casting a red haze over the wet ground. I was just about to lie back down when the TV turned on by itself. Static again, but louder this time. Underneath the hiss, there was a faint whisper. At first, I thought it was in my head. But then it grew clearer, a voice repeating something I couldn't quite make out. I turned the volume down. The voice stayed. It was coming from the vent. I knelt in front of it, heart hammering. The words were still muffled, but the tone, it was pleading. A man's voice, saying the same sentence over and over. Then it stopped. The silence stretched for what felt like minutes before a new sound came. 3 sharp taps from inside the vent, directly against the metal. I backed away and sat on the bed, keeping my eyes on it. The room felt colder now. My breath fogged the air. The tapping started again, faster this time, like fingernails on steel. Then, suddenly, it stopped. The voice returned, louder, closer. I heard it clearly now. "Room 6, don't leave." The TV went black. The lamp beside the bed flickered and died. In the dark, I heard the footsteps again, this time inside the room. I grabbed my bag, didn't bother with the key, and ran straight to my truck. The motel office was dark, the neon sign still flickering. In my rear-view mirror, room 6's curtain shifted, like someone was watching me leave. I didn't stop driving until the sun came up. When I told a friend about it weeks later, he laughed and said Shale Creek Motel had been closed for years. But I still have the key. Brass tag. Number 6. And sometimes, in the quiet of my apartment, I swear I hear 3 slow knocks on the wall. After I left Shale Creek Motel, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd driven away from something that wasn't done with me. I took the long way home, avoiding that stretch of highway. But a week later, my job sent me right back through the hills. This time, I left before dawn. The fog was thick, curling over the road in pale ribbons. My delivery route took me past Signal Hill, a place I'd heard about from truckers. An old radio relay tower that still broadcast weather alerts and local chatter. They said the tower had been unmanned for decades, yet someone, or something, still keyed the mic every night. The road up was narrow, 2 lanes winding between pines that crowded close, their branches scratching at my side mirrors. At the top, the tower stood like a skeletal finger stabbing into the gray sky, guy wires humming in the wind. Below it sat a squat brick building with boarded windows and a rusted door. I should have kept driving, but curiosity has teeth. The door gave way under my push, hinges groaning. Inside, the air was cold and smelled faintly of ozone and dust. Rows of dead equipment lined the walls, old receivers, tape decks, switchboards. Most were dark, but in the center of the room, a single desk lamp glowed, casting a cone of yellow light over a microphone and a battered logbook. The mic hissed softly, a low static hum. I leaned closer and thought I heard a voice under it, faint, clipped. Room 6. My stomach tightened. I flipped open the logbook. The last entry was dated 3 days ago, a single sentence. Weather clear, temp steady, awaiting reply. Signed with a name I didn't recognize, but the entry before it. I froze. It was my name, written in a shaky hand. No date, just my name, followed by signal sent, no response. The static in the mic rose, a thin whistle threading through it. Then, in a flat, calm voice, "You left before we finished." I pulled my hand back from the desk, my chair scraping the floor. "Who is this?" I asked. Silence. Then a low chuckle, too close, like it was just behind me. I turned. The room was empty. When I faced the desk again, the logbook was closed, the lamp flickering. The mic hissed once more. Then the voice returned, clearer, louder. "Check the roof." The building had a narrow steel staircase bolted to the back wall. My boots rang against it as I climbed. At the top, the wind hit hard, carrying the faint scent of rain. From up there, the view stretched for miles, pine ridges fading into mist. The tower loomed above me, cables trembling. I scanned the rooftop. Empty. Then a sharp metallic ping from the base of the tower. I turned just in time to see a figure, tall in a dark coat, step behind one of the guy wire anchors. I rushed over, but when I rounded the corner, there was no one. Only a small object lying on the gravel, a brass key with a number tag. Number 6. I dropped it instantly. It skittered across the roof and stopped at the drain. That's when the voice came again, but now it was coming from everywhere. From the tower, from the vents, from inside my head. "You can't leave the line open." The wind surged, and the tower's guy wires began to hum, a deep, resonant note that pressed against my ribs. I didn't climb down the stairs so much as fall down them. I bolted for my truck, the sound of that hum following me until I slammed the door and turned the key. As I pulled away, the radio crackled to life on its own. No station ID, just that same steady voice. "Transmission received, awaiting your return." I drove until the signal faded. But even now, at night, if I leave the radio on low, I can hear it under the static, calling my name. After Signal Hill, I told myself I'd take a different route, avoid anything that even smelled like trouble, but the mountains don't care what you plan. Out here, the roads decide where you're going. 2 weeks later, rain hit the Appalachians hard. Sheets of water fell for 3 straight days, filling creeks until they overflowed. My job required me to check flood damage along secondary highways. One of them, Route 9, was notorious for flooding near an old bridge where the road dipped into a narrow hollow. Locals called it the Drowning Road. By the time I reached the barricades, the rain had eased to a mist. Water pooled across the asphalt in a shimmering sheet, reflecting the dark underside of the clouds. The road closed sign was half submerged. I should have turned back. Instead, I parked at the barricade and decided to walk in, just to see how bad it was. At first, the water was shallow, cool against my boots. But as I went deeper into the hollow, the surface grew darker, and the air took on a strange metallic tang, like old pennies left in the rain. Halfway across, I saw movement beneath the water, not fish, too large. A shadow drifted slowly, keeping pace with me. I stopped. The shadow stopped. Then, a ripple passed over the surface, and I heard something. A deep, muffled thump, like a heartbeat trapped under ice. The road dipped lower. Water climbed past my ankles. That's when I saw it. Just ahead, where the center line disappeared into murky green, the yellow paint wavered, and then shifted, bending as though the asphalt itself was breathing. I took one step back. The shadow below moved closer. It had shape now, human shape. A voice rose from the water, so faint I thought it might be the wind. "Stay on the line." It was the same tone I'd heard from Signal Hill. I turned, ready to retreat, but behind me the way I'd come was gone. Nothing but water stretching into the mist. No barricades, no truck. The center line under the water brightened, glowing faintly, leading deeper into the flooded hollow. I didn't want to follow, but the sound of water lapping at my boots had taken on a rhythm, footsteps, matching mine. Every few yards I caught glimpses beneath the surface, road signs lying flat on the asphalt, car doors yawning open, shapes slumped in the driver's seats. Their hair drifted like river weeds. Their faces, what I could see of them, were pale and blurred, as though the water had rubbed the features away. The line ended at the bridge, or what was left of it. The guardrails jutted out of the water at odd angles, like broken ribs. There, in the middle, stood a figure in a soaked highway uniform, reflective vest clinging to his frame. His head was down, but in his hands he held a long, rusted pole, what used to be a road closure sign. "You're late," he said without looking up. I swallowed. Late for what? To close the road. The water surged, rising another inch. I looked behind me again, still no way out. He raised the sign and let it fall into the water with a splash. When it sank, the hum began, low at first, then building until it pressed against my skull. The figure lifted his head. Where his eyes should have been, there was only dark water, swirling. "You can go now," he said, "but you'll be back. They always come back." I blinked, and the hollow was empty. The water was gone. I stood on damp asphalt, the road closed sign back at the barricade where it belonged. My truck waited behind it. I didn't remember walking back. That night, the rain returned, and in the sound of it drumming on the roof, I could hear the faint thump, like something waiting under the water, keeping time until the next flood. After the drowning road, I promised myself no more detours, no more just checking abandoned places. But work doesn't care about promises. The call came on a Tuesday morning. An old structure in Pine Hollow was scheduled for demolition. The crew refused to start until someone inspected the site for asbestos and structural hazards. That someone was me. Pine Hollow School had been closed since 1974. The locals called it the last bell, as if the building had frozen in the moment after its final class was dismissed. Driving there meant leaving the main highway, winding through farmland until the road turned to gravel, then dirt. The trees on either side leaned so close they scraped the truck mirrors. The school stood alone at the end of the road. A squat, two-story brick building with boarded windows and a bell tower listing slightly to one side. The paint on the trim had peeled to gray slivers. A chain-link fence surrounded the yard, but the gate hung open. Inside, the air smelled of damp plaster and mildew. My boots crunched over broken glass. A long hallway stretched ahead, lockers lining both sides. Many of the doors to the classrooms were shut. I picked one at random and pushed it open. Desks sat in neat rows, facing a chalkboard still streaked with faint words. A lesson plan from decades ago. State capitals, quiz on Friday. Someone had drawn a crude smiley face in the dust on the teacher's desk. Somewhere above me, a metallic clang echoed. I froze. The building was supposed to be empty. I followed the sound to a narrow staircase that led up to the bell tower. The steps groaned under my weight. At the top, the bell hung in its frame, green with oxidation. A rope dangled beside it, frayed at the end. I turned to leave. That's when the rope twitched. It wasn't wind. There was no wind here, only the smell of dust and the faint scent of something sweeter, like apples left too long in a cellar. The rope twitched again, harder. Then the bell rang. The sound was wrong. Instead of the bright peal I expected, it was deep, hollow, and slow, like a funeral toll. From somewhere below, children's voices rose in a chant. The words were muffled, but the rhythm was unmistakable, keeping time with the bell. I backed down the stairs, my flashlight beam shaking. At the bottom, the hallway was no longer empty. Desks had been pulled into the corridor, lined up as if for an assembly. Every seat was filled. At first, I thought they were mannequins, but the way they turned their heads toward me, too slow, too deliberate, made my stomach knot. Their faces were blurred, features smudged like chalk erased from a board. One at the front row stood. The height, the shape. It could have been a boy of 12, but the voice was older, worn thin like an old tape. "You're late." I didn't answer. He pointed toward a door at the far end of the hall. Principal's office. Against my better judgment, I went. Inside, the air was colder, as if winter had been shut inside for 50 years. On the desk lay an open ledger. Names were written in careful script. The last page was dated the day the school closed. There was one space left. A pen rolled toward me. I shook my head. "I'm not part of this." The boy's voice came from the doorway. "Everyone is once they hear the bell." The pen touched my hand. The next thing I remember, I was outside, standing beside my truck. The sun had dipped low, and the trees cast long shadows across the yard. When I looked back, the school's windows were dark, except for one on the top floor. A figure stood there, watching. That night, as I tried to sleep, a sound rose faint in the distance. Not rain, not wind, a bell, slow, heavy, counting down to something I didn't want to know.